G'day, this is Darby here from Christchurch, New Zealand. I've made a couple of videos about Ssangyong and sort of maybe if you're a do-it-yourselfer guy, well, this is one of those videos. This is my 2012 Ssangyong 6-speed diesel, and it's just done on 149,000 Ks. So today we're going to change the handbrake shoes on the rear. So the handbrake actually has some shoes. We'll have a look at those in a little while. So Southern Hemisphere here, so it's winter here at the moment. It's quite a nice day for the moment, but going to get in and show you a wee bit about how to change and deal with these handbrake shoes.
Yeah.
Okay, so these are the tools that you'll need for the handbrake shoes. You're going to have to take the brake caliper off, which we'll get into very shortly. So you need a strong bar and a ratchet, which I haven't got. I misplaced it somewhere at the moment. So there's a torque wrench or a strong bar and a 20mm socket. You need a 12mm ring spanner, and here's something for you to note. This here is the original from Ssangyong. That cost me, to get a set of 2 for those, couriered down from Auckland, which is about 1,000 k's from us in Christchurch, $260. This here I got from a brake specialist place in Christchurch, and you might have one in your place, and these cost me for the set of 2 $85. So if you've got a brake specialist in your place, go and see them, and obviously the one on your left, that's the Ssangyong one, original, and the one on your right is the one that I got. Now this one here, it's for a Holden car, so it fits exactly the same. I've already put one in on the other side, so I'm going to show you how to fit this on this side now. So we're going to take off the right rear brake caliper. There's a couple of bolts on the back, and of course if you've got time and if your brake shoes are down, which are here and here, you might as well do your brake shoes at the same time. So take those 2 off, and just make a note with your caliper. You can actually sit it up shortly on the frame of the truck here once I get this off. And one thing is really important: make sure when you put it back on that you don't twist any of your hydraulic hoses. These here, just make sure your hydraulic hoses are so I need a screwdriver now just to wrench this off. Get this off. So this is the caliper. Your 20mm socket, strong bar, and that can sit just on top here. Okay, just on top there. Just sit it on top there. It'll sit there quite nicely. Okay, so this is your brake disc here. So we're going to give that a bit of a knock. Try to get that off. And that just pops off like so. Now there's a grommet here, this little thing here. There's a rubber grommet. You can punch that out because and don't forget to put it back in. It's a pain when you've got everything back together and you've got your grommet left out. How do I know this? Because I've left it out myself. So I'll leave that there. And this is what we want to, this here is the handbrake shoe. So this is the one that's worn. So what's happening, I was failed on my warrant because the handbrake wasn't holding. So I've got to change these shoes. It really looks like nothing's wrong with the pads themselves, these here. And the place where I took them to, they couldn't just replace the pads, because they put them in the heat process, and the heat process is just too hot for the rings and it distorts the rings. So just be aware of that. So what we need to do with this, we lever this out like so. Leave it out. You leave it up, because right under here, this part here, there's an adjuster. Now this adjuster here actually adjust your handbrakes out when they start to wear. So you can do that once, at least once. Like I said, I've done this once on my truck. My truck's done 149,000 Ks. So that's the old brake shoe there. And I'm going to grab the new one and I'm going to put that one back in. So with the grommet out here, we can sort of turn the wheel, make sure everything's out of gear, and of course make sure everything's chocked up and everything's safe for you as well. So you can actually get to this adjuster right here through this hole here. So just a little thing about this adjuster here, this little adjuster here on both sides, if you adjust clockwise, if you know your clock, if you adjust clockwise, it brings the brake shoes out, and if you adjust anti-clockwise, it brings the brake shoes in. New ring, and so what that does, if you see this little bit here, it's the back of your the shoe fits over on the back of that, so it fits over the top of the shaft. You give it a little tap down, and then you can adjust it onto this part here. Make sure these two holes are pretty much in line with each other up there. That's about center right there. So that's about the center, thereabouts. Okay, now comes to the fiddly part. So now we've got the shoe sitting on top there, just over that clip. Now we're going to put one of the shoes. You've got to make sure with these things here, these little adjusters down here, these pistons, so these are both pistons here, just make sure that that it's pointed down so they can fit your your horseshoe in it. So you just push one end in like that. Now this is going to get a bit fiddly, so I could go on to pause for a few seconds, and then you've got to get your screwdriver and just adjust that other one in so that it sort of pops into the other one. It's nearly there. It's nearly there. So just fiddle around with it a little bit, just so that it fits right into that adjuster right there. So I've just managed to sort of put that in there, and that's sitting in there really well. Just these are all lined up now with the little slots that they have in the pistons, and that's okay. What I'm going to do now, just make sure that that's sitting right down on that retaining screw there at the back. That locks that in on the top, right there. Right, now grommet. Don't forget, put the grommet back in. What I will do, I'll do a little bit of adjustment out. So just remember, on these little pistons here, right through there, see that little knurling thing there? So if you go clockwise on that, clockwise, the way the clock goes, that adjusts everything out. And if you, like these are brand new, so I don't need to adjust them, so I'm just going to adjust them a little bit, just to sit them a little bit tighter on those pistons so there's not much slack. Away from there. So here's the little knurl here, the adjuster. So it's going to shift that a few points up. And what that does, when you move that up, it pushes that little piston out. So that's how you get the adjustment for your handbrake. There is another adjuster on this truck as well that you can do, and I'll hopefully, if it gets you some time, I'll show you that later. So that's all done. So now the brake shoe's on, I've adjusted it up a little bit. I'm going to put the brake disc back on. So of course, your actual foot brake, your hydraulic brakes, they work on this disc here. And if you have a look on the back of these, or even here, it says the minimum thickness for this is 8.5 millimeters. So once these discs get under 8.5 millimeters, you've actually got to buy them. And they're about, well, in New Zealand they're about probably $85 each. But you might be able to get them cheaper somewhere. But this one's okay for the moment. They didn't pull me up for the warrant, so it's only my handbrake that I need to do. Okay, now that's not going on. I'll tell you why it's not going on, because I've adjusted that too far out. So I've got to readjust this here again, and I've got to adjust this anti-clockwise because that piston's out too far. So if I go down, so this is going to be moving the other way that the clock moves. So if I do that, I don't need to take the grommet out for this one because I'm going anti-clockwise. So what that will do is that will shift this little piston in, and it won't make the disc so tight, because your handbrake actually works on the inside of that brake brake disc. So that's moving that in there, and hopefully this should fit on. This should fit on now. Hopefully, he said. Put that around. So I'm just adjusting this out so that hopefully I can get this back on. So I just have to give that a little tap on there, just to get it seated in the right place, of course. That's all on. Now, what we need to do now, we need to just remember what I said, when you're putting the brake calipers back on, which is these ones here, just make sure your hoses here aren't crimped in any way whatsoever. So, these are your brake pads here. The brake pads seem okay on this one. So what you need to do, you can place them over the disc, like so, and just gently glide them on, and then you can adjust them accordingly. It's a bit of a fiddly job, this, getting these on. You sometimes can get one on, the bottom one or the top one on sometimes, and that allows the other ones to sort of line up. But they will, they're not tight or anything like that. I don't want to give it a bit of a nudge at the moment, because, oh, there we are. So I'll try and put one screw in the bottom. Once you get the screw in there, adjusted, the other one will just flow on. So that screw is all aligned now, and my trusty wrench. Just tighten that up a wee bit down there. Don't need to tighten this right up. Once the caliper's on, you can pretty much say it's got a job done. Okay. Alright, so just tightening up the last of this caliper now, just using the wrench, the ratchet I should say, and once they're tight you can sort of get your torque wrench to the other part that I have. Don't forget it's a 20mm socket. It may change, of course, with trucks it may be different, but for my truck on the rear the calipers are 20mm, so just a matter of just tightening those up. You probably have more muscle than me, so okay. I'm just going to show you one more thing before I leave. but I've got to get under the truck to show you this. So I'm under the truck, and if you can see that part there, that T intersection there with the cable, so there's one cable that comes back, there's one cable, the single cable goes to your handbrake, and the other two cables, they go either side to those brake shoes that we just put on. Now if you've got new brake shoes on, you'll have to adjust this cable. So because I've already adjusted it, so at the end it's closest to you, I can't sort of get a finger on it at the moment, but on that end there in the shot you can put a small vice grips or a small spanner or a little crescent, and on the other end, what you see jutting out there, there's a 12mm bolt. So if you adjust that 12mm bolt on that rod out, that will adjust your handbrake lever so that it's not so hard on the inside. So once I've done that, I'll sort of I'll show you a bit more, but I'm not going to show you the adjustment of that easy. But that's the other adjustment. So if you've got brand new pads on your car, brand new brake shoes and brake pads for your handbrake, you can adjust this right off and you adjust it right back up until it's just nice pulling up into the truck. Okay, so that's something for you to just take a note of. That's the adjustment under the truck, and it's easy to access it from the driver's side. Anyway, from my side, I believe it's a bit easier to access this from the driver's side, even if you jack it up, or if you've got a workshop and you really flash, well, that's different. Okay, so we've finished the job. So these are sort of the old brake shoes that came out. Now these are handbrake shoes. They're not brake shoes for the foot brake. They're handbrake shoes. So just a reminder, Ssangyong, $260 courier down 1,000 kilometers from where I live. I went to a specialised braking brake specialist here in Christchurch, and I managed to pick up a set for $85. So these, the set that I got, these are the original Sangyongs, but the set that I got were a set for a Holden car. And so if you go down there, you'll find things a lot cheaper. Now, people may not like the fact that you put my car's past its warranty, so you know, putting in other stuff that's exactly the same, may not be Ssangyong, well, that's okay. But if it's a cost saving for you, go and do it. Okay, this is down here. End of July for us here in Christchurch, and winter's certainly in the air. We've got snow on our mountains around us, and this is my 2012 6-speed diesel Ssangyong ute. Thanks.